Welcome to the Get Fit With Me, Expanding Your Physical and Mental Fitness group. This group is for individuals who are ready to expand both their physical and mental fitness while helping and supporting others with similar goals all along the way. So I am excited. I'm always excited for these calls, so you guys know that. But today we're going to talk about experiences. So as I say experiences, I want you to kind of think of some experiences you've been a part of and what kind of you've gotten out of the experience. It could be a good experience, it could be a bad experience, it could be something you knew you were getting yourself into or something you didn't know you were getting yourself into. So with that being the case, before we get into all of that fun stuff, I want to know if you are on Facebook, are you watching the live or the replay? Hashtag live or hashtag replay for me to let me know that you are here. You guys can hear me okay. And I see we have one person on the call with us today, Marsha. I'm super happy to have you here. She is also a new member of our group. So we have two new members this week. We have Marsha and we have Cheryl, and I'm super excited to have them. So experiences. I'm going to start by sharing a story and kind of asking some questions that I want you guys to think about. So when it comes to experiences for yourself, I want you guys to think through what kind of experiences you've been a part of, how that experience has made you felt. Was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience? Was it something that if you known you would have got X out of it sooner, would you have done it sooner? So as I go through and I tell my story of this awesome experience that I had just a few weeks ago, I want you guys to think through some of that. Once I share my experience / story, we're then going to go around and do introductions, and I want to know the answers to these questions. So it was 4th of July weekend. I had a friend, we were listening to some music and her playlist was all over the place. It was really upbeat and then it was lower, and I love music. So I asked her and I said, hey, did you create this playlist or is this something that someone else created? She said, this is my yoga playlist, which caught me off guard. I don't know if any of you have done yoga. I have only taken yoga classes where the music in the beat is fast, but there's really no words, and it's kind of very serious and but also relaxing at the same time. I've never been part of a yoga class where the music is upbeat, loud, has words that make you think about things. And right there I said, okay, where is this yoga class? Can I join? What's it about? So 2 weeks later, I ended up going to this yoga class with her. And it was a class called The Release, which from the name, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I'm down to try everything at least once. If you are a person that likes to try everything at least once, raise your hand, type it in the chat. Let me know that you will try everything at least once just to see if it's for you. So I go ahead, I try this class. We're in the front row, we're right next to the instructor, and the instructor makes a point to set an intention for the class. So intentions can look like, oh, I want you to get this out of it. I want you to get this out of it. She said the intention was a word, the word control, and to learn and for us to just listen and hear what control meant to us. How did control make us feel? How did not having control make us feel? And kind of those things that all fall with control. So class goes through. We are up and down. We're doing burpees. We're grunting. We're yelling. We're screaming. She's asking questions. We're responding. If we're not loud enough, we're responding even louder. It was the coolest experience, coolest class I've ever been a part of. And yes, the class itself was fun, but the part that was most important to me was, if you guys know me and you've been on any of these previous trainings, you've heard me say I have control issues. It's not necessarily an issue, but it's something that I find a lot of comfort in, is having control of situations. And it's funny how her intention for the class and some of the things I was going through aligned very well. So we ended up being down in a position where we were just on our knees and our arms were just doing this. Nothing hard at all, just doing this. And all of a sudden, I started to categorize the parts in my mind where where I take control of everything and I don't need to. And it made me upset with myself, and I just started crying in the middle of this class. Never cried in fitness class before. And I know I wasn't the only one in the room. And it was the experience of being able to be there and to allow myself to feel that emotion and allow myself to be in the moment and just be free with my thoughts and be open about how I'm actually feeling and what I'm actually hanging on to. So class gets done and she ends the class with 2 things she wants us to take away. So I love that she started with an intention, and she also wanted us to take away 2 things. She wanted us to take away that it's not mine and awareness. So we will talk about all of that today, but I wanted to give you the backstory on why I'm talking about this, because I have dealt with control my whole life, and I love the comfort it brings me while being in control, but I did not realize how much harm it was also doing to me mentally to have that control for such a small, for just a small amount of gratification from that instant comfort that I get. So with that being the case, we're going to expand on that more, but that is the backstory on why this topic came to be. So Marsha, if you are able to talk and you'd like to unmute, I want to know who you are, where you're from, and have you ever had an experience that has changed you? I see you're unmuted, but I cannot hear you. Can you hear me? Well, we will play around with this. While we are waiting here, for all you guys on Facebook, let us know who you are, where you're from. Hello. I still cannot, thank you. I still cannot hear you. See, this is just Zoom being Zoom. I still can't hear you, unfortunately. Do you want to exit and jump back in? I'll let you back in if you end, and we'll see. Make sure you connect your audio. That may be something funky. Perfect. So as Marsha jumps back in here, for all you guys on Facebook, what I was saying is make sure to let us know who you are, where you're from, and if you've had an experience, share it in the comments. It's more than likely that we've had a similar experience, or if we haven't, let's hear about each other's experiences and how things are different in our lives and how, oh, that experience sounds awesome. Where can I get that experience? Now let's try. I can hear you.
You can hear the lawnmower outside, I bet. Right?
How are you?
Okay. So somebody else is on here too, or just you and me?
Just you and me. I'm streaming into the Facebook group. So there's people watching live right now. And then people will watch the replay. So thank you for jumping on. This is your first time here. I
guess I never figured out you were doing this. So I was real curious what your topic was, because it didn't make sense. So.
Well, good. I'm glad you jumped on. Would you like to share with us who you are, where you're from, and have you ever had an experience that has changed you?
I am Marsha McCoy-pfister. I live in East Lansing. And I am not coming up with any examples of what you're talking about.
That is okay, because the yoga class that I was in was the first experience that I actually allowed myself to be present and not just focus, not just on the movement, and just think about the thought and categorize. So
I didn't think that's what yoga was supposed to do. I thought yoga was supposed to, be quiet and not,
I know
that doesn't make sense.
it was the craziest thing to me. So it's actually a place in Brighton. So you are able to go to it. It's called The Space. And I was with an instructor called Kelly. Her name was Kelly. And the class is called The Release.
It's called what?
So The Release. I'll put the information in the chat for anyone who is in Michigan and wants to visit it.
Okay.
And it's all about loudness, music, conversation between the instructor would ask questions like, hey, how are you guys today? And it'd be crickets. And she'd go, how are you guys today? And it was just getting that response back and getting that dialogue. We did things such as we were going down to the ground, we were standing up, we were grunting, we were yelling. People, depending on how they were feeling, were swearing a little bit. The best part about it, though, was the intention she set, what she wanted us to get out of it, and then the story she shared along the way on how she was relating to us. So from that, because the topic was control, I then was like, haha, I have lots of control in my life. I find a lot of comfort in having control of things. But during that class, I realized that control, when I have the control, it gives me comfort right away, but then it causes stress on the back end. It causes resentment sometimes for the things I've taken on when others are not doing their part, when it really wasn't mine to take on. It causes all those back end feelings. Have you ever felt like that, where you've taken something on and had those feelings?
Yeah, I know where you're coming from there.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of that?
Just the times that an event will come up and I'll jump in and I didn't have to. And then it's like, okay, now I'm stuck doing this and I didn't have to. And I don't really want to, but now I'm in it. And yeah, then it's too late to let somebody else handle it. Yeah.
Do you like having control of situations, or are you okay with kind of just being in the passenger seat?
Each situation's different. Sometimes it's nice to not have control, and then, it may not be going the way you want it to, but hey, at least you don't have to do it. I mean, be in charge. Other times it's nice to be able to control this, to be in control so that you can control what direction it takes. Sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't.
Where do you think control lies most in your life? Where do you feel like you control the most amount of things? Like household, yard. For me, it is my health and my actions and my emotions is where I have the most control over, because they are all mine. Anything that I do has no effect on anyone else.
Right. So anytime there's another person involved, then obviously you're losing some control. So yeah, and pretty much the same.
I found I was inserting what I would call my way of doing something is also a way that we control things. So when you ask somebody to do something and then you insert, oh, you're not doing it the right way. That's our way of inserting that control that set in with me. And that's what made me like cry in this class. I'm like, holy crap. I did not even realize that was a level of control that I was putting on situations daily.
Say that again.
So a good example is when you load the dishwasher, if it's not loaded the way you like it, do you go through and rearrange it, or do you insert and say, oh, remember, plates go on the bottom?
Guess it depends on if they'll end up getting clean or not.
And it's
when somebody double stacks them, yes, you have to change it.
and it's situations like that it's very little, but us inserting where instead of inserting, it's since that class, I have learned I don't insert unless it's going to do harm to that person. And I've worked on just being aware. So what if the dishwasher's got to be run twice? Oops, we got to do an extra load of laundry. But I realized I was inserting myself to have the control over it that I didn't realize was control that I was inserting.
I guess, yeah, I wouldn't think of the word control either in that situation. It's more, I know when the kids were little, I used to call choose your battles. Some battles are just not worth pursuing. So yeah, same type of thing.
Yep. And it's all just finding those spots in our life where is what we are helping or stepping in to help control. Is it something that is needed? And I was finding that I was personally stepping in and taking on without needing to. And I should have been saying, that's not mine. Nope, not mine. That's fine. They can figure it out. All in a very supportive way, but saying that's not mine to take on, because women are people pleasers for the most part, and we take on things a lot. And sometimes it's better to pause, take a deep breath, become aware that we're going to take something on, and then choose. Is it mine to take on, or is it not mine?
Right. Yeah. Choosing which battles you want to pursue.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a perfect way to think about that. And I've heard that in the past, but it did not come to mind as I was walking through all this. I never thought of pick what battles.
That makes more sense to me than the control thing.
Absolutely. And whatever resonates with you is what I want you to stick with. Because at the end, I do ask your biggest insight or takeaway, and yours maybe pick your battles. And if that makes more sense for you, stay with it. Because pick your battles, to me, it makes sense, but control makes more sense to me. And somebody else may have their own saying. And that's the best part, is I love hearing what everyone's like, oh, it all means the same thing, but I like this better. This resonates better to me. So I have a question for you. If you were to know, so if I were to ask you to go to this yoga class with me, not knowing what I had experienced, what if I had said, they have really fun music, we get to move around a lot, and we get to think about things? Would that be something that you would want to go to? Would it be something that would interest you?
I'm willing to try anything once. You don't have to go back.
See, I knew I liked you for a reason. Try everything once. So, and that I love to hear that, because my goal for one, having this training, two, from going from this class and having this experience, is for me to create something for you guys to try. Whereas instead of having a conversation, we do an experience class like that, where it allows us to get open with our minds, allows us to move freely. I'm not good at yoga, and I did have a hesitation of, I have no idea what these moves are, but it wasn't the things she talked about and the things I thought about. I didn't even care if I was doing the moves right. Part of the time I just sat there in child's pose because I was exhausted, because it was hot yoga. It's like, holy moly, this is a lot.
Yeah, I have to move and think at the same time.
Right. So allowing us to just kind of move freely, knowing that we're not going to injure ourselves, and think more mindfulness, allows for the mind to kind of open up. Because instead of thinking, So if I tell you to think about something, you're going to think about it. You're just going to keep thinking. Whereas if I have you walking and think about it, you're not thinking about your walking. You're thinking about
Right.
that. Or you're thinking about not tripping on anything and you're not thinking about what I told you to.
Right.
So finding that perfect balance between what is something simple we can be aware of, but also what is an action we can do it so that we're not just obsessively like, she told me to think about this. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. Okay, I'm not getting anywhere. So this is probably the best experience I have had, and I wanted to know from everybody and if we had experiences like this in our life, because experiences make us who we are. They teach us to be stronger. They teach us to overcome things. Had two other experiences that were not so great. You saw me on Wednesday. I had a car that did not work. We had to figure that out. That is a bad experience, or I wouldn't say bad. It's a unfortunate experience that taught me some things, how to maneuver very quickly in a 30-minute time span.
Uh-huh.
The
And
day
everything
before,
came out okay?
everything came out perfect. And my neighbor just came over and looked, and it's something super simple. Didn't even cost anything. So it's instead of getting in our minds about things like we do, we overthink, oh my gosh, we're not going to get this done. Remembering to take that deep breath and pause. Is this something I can control? Is this something that me getting worked up about is going to do it any better? No. Me stressing about the car was not going to make the car run and magically do what it needed to do. But I was just aware of it.
I can't add anything to that. I totally agree.
What types of things do you become aware of before you've realized? Do you realize anything that you try to pause and become aware of before you proceed with the action?
I think you do that with everything in your daily life. Is it something you jump into, or do you have to stop and think it through? And no examples are coming to mind.
And that's okay. And it's all based on our experience in life as well. So you have more experience in life, in the workforce, and all of that more than I do. I'm still starting out. I'm only 25. So I'm realizing some of these things that I'm very grateful I'm realizing now, rather than getting older and realize, should have learned that about 25 years ago. Darn it. That would have saved me some time and some stress.
Oh, there will be those.
Do you remember anything like when you were younger in your 20s that you wish you would have been like, I wish I would have learned that sooner? Looking back, like, I wish I would have learned and become more aware of that sooner in life than when I did.
I'm not good at this kind of thing.
You're doing great. I know, I ask questions. So what I like to think of is what I was really good at that I wish I would have learned sooner. I'm not really good at, but I'm better, is parallel parking. I wish I would have been better at that sooner. Like, it doesn't create any more joy, but there's things that I'm like, if I would have just been a little bit more aware of the things I'm supposed to be aware of when parallel parking, I probably could have excelled at it better.
Well, that's an example of being taught properly the first time.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
So This is your first time on the call. What did you think?
I had no idea what to expect. You had me curious. And all the talk about the yoga, I'm thinking, well, so are we doing the yoga while she's talking? Or, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So I got on mainly hoping that I could hide in the background and figure out what was going on.
Oh no, that's never the case with me. No one gets to hide in the background with me. You should know that.
I do. So how often do you do these?
So these are every Thursday at 3 p.m. Each week is a different topic. So next week, good lead into next week, we are doing a Dusty Dumbbell Workshop. So come on, join live, have your dumbbells with you, and we're essentially going to practice movements and do a workout at the end together. Little 10-minute workout. So the beginning, I'm going to make sure that form looks good. We're going to go through some of the basic movements that I know you know, but we're also going to do some different things. So if we work together, and so at the gym, if you were like, my left shoulder's really been bugging me and you've been having me do shoulder presses, that'd be a good time to address it. And then we show modifications based on that. Because sometimes I know in the class format, we miss that. But next week, come with any questions you have about anything dumbbell related, and we're gonna move for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. These are usually only 30 to 40 minutes long, depending on how many people are on, how in-depth the conversation goes. I've been on ones that are an hour, but there's a lot more people on it. So it kind of takes the whole hour to get through everybody.
Right.
So next week we have Dusty Dumbbell Workshop. The following week we have how to get motivated, because it's really hard to find the motivation some mornings. So each week is just a different topic for me to come on and teach you guys something. And you get the most out of it when you are on the Zoom and I can ask you questions. And
we can't hide in the corner.
Right, exactly.
See, if I didn't know the Facebook was an option, I could have hid in the corner then.
I'm happy you did not know Facebook was an option. So that's what these trainings are for. And they're also a time for, if earlier in the week or from week to week, if you're like, I have a question and I haven't seen her, or I forgot to message her and ask her. It's always a time to ask any sort of questions that you have about personal health and wellness, personal mental fit, anything that you have a question about. I am here to help answer questions, serve you in any way that I can. And then we wrap up and I go about the day, and then we wait till next week and I get to see you guys all again.
Okay.
So any questions that you have for me this week, or are you feeling pretty good about everything?
I think I'm feeling pretty good about everything.
Feeling pretty good?
Yeah.
What's your biggest insight or takeaway from today's kind of talk? So talked about my experience at the yoga studio. I talked about the yoga studio a bit, what I got out of it. You talked about some relations you had. So what do you think was your biggest takeaway that you're going to kind of remember from today?
Probably my thought of picking your battles, and my wording to think about that, before you speak.
I think that's perfect.
Or before you speak or rearrange the dishwasher.
Yeah, it's okay if it doesn't get loaded the right way. It'll all eventually be clean on the top shelf, bottom shelf, somewhere in between.
And I apologize if my lawnmowers you're picking that up.
Oh, I can't hear it at all.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, no, usually I feel like people can hear the dump truck outside our house on Thursdays because it's trash day. But nobody's ever said they can hear it, so it must not be that bad.
Okay, good. Because I can hear it.
Well, if we don't have any questions, those are great insights. Taking away what makes sense to you is the biggest thing that I want you guys to remember. And remembering that when you feel like you are starting to insert yourself on something, think about, is it something that you can control personally? Is it something you need to take on? Is it yours to take on? And sometimes we take those on and sometimes we don't, but just creating the awareness in ourselves before we say yes all the time with things, because it's hard hard being a yes person. We
It's
drain very
okay to
easily.
say no.
Yes, it is okay to say no or another time or not right now. It is okay to say that. That is perfectly correct.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining. Next Thursday, 3 p.m., same time, same place, Dusty Dumbbell Workshop. So bring those dusty dumbbells that are hiding in the corner. My dumbbells aren't necessarily dusty, but I have other equipment that is. So we will be breaking out it all eventually.
Okay. Well, thank you, Morgan. It's been very thought-provoking.
Absolutely. Have such a great day, Marsha. I will see you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.